Yes, absolutely.
That sounds
That's it.
good. Yeah. And I must turn on my. Oh, okay. How do I turn on share my thing? Okay, let me see.
Able to share your screen, ma'am?
That's what I'm looking at. Yes, I have done that. Yeah, I think it's is it visible?
Yes, it is. Editing your manuscript. Absolutely.
Yeah. So start from this and now, but I can't see everyone else. I need to see everyone else. How do I do that? Okay. Uh, just a minute.
If you
Okay.
click on participants, you would be able to have a look at all the
No, that
participants.
kind of disappears. So let me just, I'll keep switching back and forth. So thank you, Khushbu, and warm welcome to all the participants here. It's so nice to see all of you here on a Sunday evening, and it's been a pretty long session for you, but I'm sure you all are enriched with so many ideas, isn't it? And what great speakers we have had before me, starting with characterization by Dr. Aparna, then creating your own new world with Dr. Khushbu Shah. Actually, she's a doctor. She's an ophthalmologist, and of course, she's wonderful with words as well. So once you get started with writing a story and you complete it, is it ready to be presented to the world? What do you think? Or would you like to ensure the best version of a story that you could probably present? Okay, so when I'm on the sharing mode, I cannot see you guys, so I'll keep uh, zipping in and out. But here is my presentation to you. So the first reason is why edit? Because we want to present the best version of your manuscript. Now, you might ask me that when you have written the story, you have put in your efforts and your best efforts, so it should be the best version, right? But many a times when you've given your exams, when you revise your paper, that there are certain errors hidden here or there. Some have just slipped in inadvertently. And when you go through it again, that is when you can catch the mistake and rectify it. Editing your story or your manuscript is just the same. Okay, so it is a revision of your work so that you can trim out all the errors or probably add in something more interesting that comes to you later on and present the best version of your manuscript. Um, I don't know whether you can see it, but this is my book called Jewels from the Treasure Trove. It's a collection of short stories. And why I'm showing this to you is because it's not just one genre that it deals in. It covers multiple genres, starting with sci-fi, dystopian, literary fiction. It also has some slice of life, you know. So historical fiction and romance, everything that I could think of, and I dabbled in. So a very important thing, because remember we are dealing with short stories right now, that what are the different types of editing that we require to do. So there are precisely four types. One is the structural editing, which deals with the plot and the structure of your story. Then comes line editing, where you're looking at every line and sentence also. Then we come to copy editing, where we are looking at grammar, structure of the sentences, whether you're following the conventions of grammar and the conventions of the form of writing. Supposing you're writing a short story, the conventions are different. Writing a novel, the conventions are different. Supposing you're writing a story through letters called epistolary, the conventions are different. Supposing you're writing a story as journal entries or diary entries, it's going to be different, right? So whatever be the story that we have chosen to write and the why, the plot, the structure, and the references, the conventions should be maintained throughout. Then, of course, is proofreading. Once everything is done, you will need to do the proofreadings when the story is printed and ready to be published. That is the time when you do the proofreading and make sure that there are no errors, especially spelling and punctuation. I hope you all are here till okay with me till here. Okay, I cannot see anybody. Now, uh, since we are editing a short story, let us revise the elements of a short story. So the elements are very simple. Evaluate the plot and its structure. You have to check the development of the characters and the dialogue. And why I am saying that is because there has to be a development of the character in a story. And how you're going to show it, you have been receiving the guidance for that through all my predecessors. And you know that dialogue plays a very important role. So if you're showing somebody who is erudite and elegant, they cannot have words which are colloquial or which are, um, some lingo used by people who are not like them, and vice versa. So the dialogue is very important. It should go hand in hand with the character. Then comes the writing itself. So the writing has to be effective. What do I mean by that? That do away with repetitions, do away with something which is used over and over again, like cliche, right? Use the structure of the sentence so that it conveys and communicates with your reader, right? And if you want to show joy, happiness, action, you will use short sentences. If you're going to show a tone which is sad, tone where there's mystery, you're going to use long, complex sentences. Okay. So you have to check that. Check the consistency in the language and style that you've already been told about how characters will use a particular type of language. So when they are exchanging those dialogues, it's easy for the reader to discern which character is uttering those words and those dialogues. Does that make sense? Okay. And of course, then the proofreading. It's so essential. Now, I have divided the editing process into three parts: pre edit, edit, and post edit. For example, after you finish writing whatever you wrote today, you will be so excited about fleshing out your story. And you will be working on it for, I know some of us like to sit at one go and finish our stories, but many a time it's not possible because you have so many other things to do. So probably you'll take a few days to complete it. Once it's done, just leave your script aside for a while. And why should you do that? Because you have been dealing with it. You are looking at your screen. You are, or if you're writing by hand, I don't know. But generally, all of us are typing our stories these days. So just leave it aside for a while. Whatever you're seeing, you're reading, you're working at, you get so used to it, you may not see any errors. So that's the reason why you leave the script aside, come back, and then give it a fresh read. Now, when you're reading, highlight the areas you like. There'll be some areas you really like and you are very proud of. Highlight that and probably take another color and highlight the areas you do not like. or you wish to change because you have a better sentence, better word, right? Or probably you feel that this particular area doesn't gel with my narration and you do away with it. Okay. But then read it aloud. That's also very important. When you read it aloud, you can see if there is a punctuation missing. You can see if there's an error in the spelling. You can see if it is sounding as you had imagined or created it to be. And if there are some tweaks required, you can add them in. All right. Now is part, the main part of our process of editing. So first we have to start with checking for certain things. Now let's check for what? The gaps in the plot. Remember, I'm talking to you today from the perspective of a short story author. And so when you are writing a short story, you have limited words. You don't have like a novel 40,000, 60,000 words. Probably you're going to write 1,000 to 5,000 words. In that, you have to give the setting, you have to create the characters, you have to flesh out the characters, give them their characteristic traits, you have to give them an identity, give them some dialogues, you have to make the climax, the action happen, and you have to resolve that conflict, whatever you have created, right? So, you must look at your plot, see if there are any gaps. See it from the point of your reader. Put yourself in the shoes of your reader and see if there's something the reader needs an explanation for. Then you move into the action, the narration. Again, have a look. Is there everything that has been narrated making sense? Or are there some loopholes? Is there something that needs to be filled in? Then you look at the tone in which you are narrating the story. Okay? It should also be maintained consistently. For example, if I'm talking about a thriller, I cannot slip into romance, though, there in a novel, there's scope, but not in a short story because of the limitation of words and time, right? So it'll be very confusing for my for my reader. And as an author, I must stick to the point of my story, the purpose, the development of the character and the character arc. Is it being done properly? Is it being seen? Is it visible? Now, what do I mean by the character arc? I mean how the character is changing, right? And in case there is no change in the character, there is no strengthening of the character, there is no story. For example, if I take Harry Potter, yeah, in the beginning, he is shown as a simple 10-year-old boy. There is nothing very great about him. And his description is also such. But as the story progresses, we see his strength, right? And that entire change is the character arc. Another thing you must look for is the use of imagery and sensory details. Some of us are very prone to use one particular type, but we have to make a deliberate attempt that we use a whole wide range, right, in our stories. That adds to the impact. And like you have already been told, the characters have to be such that they are someone a person can identify with. But yet you have to give them something that makes them stand out from the normal, right? And how do you do that? The use of imagery and sensory details. Now I come to what we must work on. We must work on transitions. It's a short story. So from paragraph to paragraph, as I move on, The transitions should be very smooth, clear. It should not be jarring, and neither should it be confusing. And that's when your ability to read it aloud is going to help you to make those transitions. Then make the changes at the sentence level. Okay. What do I mean by that? That when you're reading the story at the time when it is on your editing table, then you are going to look at whether the sentences which are communicating to the reader, your story, your plot, your character, is it smooth? Is it flowing? Right? And in case there are certain tweaks. Okay, so accordingly, you will make the tweaks and the changes at the sentence level. The point of view. Some of you raised the question about the point of view, about the story. The point of view should be consistent. You can decide, you can debate, you can think about it that in the story, do you want to stick to one POV? Whose point of view you want to use, and from which will it be the most impactful? And accordingly, the tone will also change. Yeah. Yes, Sangya, you want to say something?
Ma'am, you said that we need to work on the details and from an imagery and sensory point of view.
Yes.
But as a short story is kind of limited, we can't go beyond a certain word limit. Then how can we inculcate that in a short story without deflecting from the plot?
It is possible, Sangya. So if you read, that's why I showed you this book. It's got 35 short stories, and some of them are really short. Yet I have not compromised on usage of sensory and imagery because what you need to compress is the descriptions. So the descriptions get become concise, but not the use of language, right? So you can see it for yourself. That was the point. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a good point you brought out. I was going to talk about it later. The redundancies that we do away with during editing. If you have read any of Charles Dickens' stories, right? Uh, he has been known for writing extensive descriptions. But you have to remember, the time he was writing in, there wasn't this audiovisual medium. Now there is. So people are more used to action. And therefore, we don't real and nobody, I mean, I have heard readers say that they skip portions where there's a lot of description. So in a novel demands that we write in detail. So descriptions are very important and integral part of a novel. In a short story, are because of the paucity of words and the word limit, we will truncate our descriptions, but at the same time use sensory language so that our reader can visualize it and experience what you mean to present, what you are trying to tell them, right? Okay. Um, Wait. Okay. Then I come to the point of tense. So when you're using the, sometimes I have seen uh, people start with, say, the past tense when they're narrating a story, and slowly they move into the present tense. Not because the story demands it, but they just kind of forget. And that's when the story slips out of the hand, right? So you have to, while editing, you have to see, does this transition in tense actually serve the purpose of the story? In case it doesn't, we can make the correction over there. That is the work of an editing or editor. Some people have the tendency to use a lot of crutch words. For example, uh, she said that, he said that, you know. And then we use for dialogues, we use the tags, the dialogue tags. Uh, Whatever the dialogue, Praful said, or Meena said that, So that can be removed. We don't need them all the time. In Sometimes it becomes obsolete. So I'll just give you an example. Um, the dragon breathed in and out angrily, then shot out fire that swallowed up everything in sight, all of it. Yeah. So now here, when I'm saying that the dragon breathed in and out the fire and swallowed everything, uh, you know, I don't have to say all of it. That's redundant. So that is the kind of thing I'm talking about when I'm saying that, you know, remove your crutch words and the superfluous words. And we also have filler lines. Now, if you're going to write extensively the description of either a place or a person or some object, unless it moves the story forward, unless it's adding some strength to the character or meaning to the plot, it's not serving the purpose. Then it's just a filler line, which does not have a place in a short story. You will have to edit it out. Okay? Spellings are very important. With spell check and all, also, you see many a time it slips in a word which is not what you wanted to use. It is a word, so it's not going to be highlighted as an error. But is it the word that you want to use there? So be very, very particular about spellings and especially when if you're using, say, a spell check tool, is it the word you want? Then you have to look at the formatting, of the paragraphs, the the gaps between the lines, right? The font you want to use. So the thumb rule these days is that we use Times New Roman 12 point as a standard formatting uh, choice, right? There are some things that I wanted to mention, and these are things like how much description is required, right? What do you think? How much description is required? Again, there is no thumb rule. It depends on what you are saying, how you're saying, and why you are saying. That's very important. And does it move the story forward? If in a 2000 word story, I'm going to spend 1,000 words in description, I will have very little time to dwell on my plot, to create the action, and to resolve the conflict. Therefore, I need to see that I don't overdo it. At the same time, if like you all have created this new world, if the details are not there, especially for the action to happen in your short story, then the reader may not understand it. There will be gaps in their understanding. Am I clear on that? Any questions regarding that?
It's clear,
Okay,
ma'am.
thank you. Okay, so let's move on. Um, when we are looking at the dialogues, you can format it such that, one dialogue comes after the other in a new line so that the conversation is very clear. And every time you do not have to use a tag, right? A dialogue tag, because your characterization is clear. So the language that you have ascribed to a particular character will stand out and will help the reader to identify who is saying that particular dialogue. In a conversation, we can speak, if there are multiple characters, we can speak at a time. But in a book, in a novel, in a short story, we generally speak one after the other. And that's how it is written in a book also. So that formatting there is very, very important. Okay. But what you have to see, uh, you avoid adverbial intensifiers. For example, very, the word very. You need not use it again and again and again. Really, of course, such words can be done without. Even in dialogues, make it meaningful, which take the story forward. There is no point saying good afternoon, hello, hello, how are you, how are you? Doesn't serve the purpose. Then the passive verb add-ons like began to, decided to, started to. Do we really need that? Please check that. Okay. The part where we're dealing with characters and characterization, Aparna has already touched upon not naming the characters in a similar way. For example, Annapurna and Anushri. They are so close. It's easy to confuse. Then once there was an editor who had a script where the person was being named as George, Georgie, Mr. George, Georgie Porgy. So within a span of 4 pages, there were all these names which had cropped up, being used by other characters. It was very, very confusing. There may be a pet name being used, but that has to be clarified. Again, it's a short story. You've already been suggested to use minimum characters, 2 or 3, because you have to introduce them, you have to build up their characteristic traits, you have to build up their background, and the conflict you have to present the interaction between the characters. So it's better that you don't make this mistake. Why? Because the reader will be confused and your story will not be able to make that same impact that you have desired. uh, okay, now let me go to the next slide. Any doubts so far? Any questions?
No, ma'am, it's clear.
Clear? Thank you, Sangya. Now, even after editing, there is still some work left for us. So the post-edit part is very, very simple. Here you read it yourself again, your script, your manuscript. Okay? And I suggest you read it out aloud because only then can you hear the impact you have wanted. In case there is still some punctuation left, in case there is still, conventions that you have not used, this will all come to light when you read it out aloud. Then I think you can seek some outside help from trusted and respected sources. I mean, apart from your friends, your close friends, and your family members, your inner circle, if there is someone who you trust enough with your story, it's your creation, it's your baby, you can ask them to read it and give you their feedback. In case you value them and value the feedback, it you agree that it is in sync with your story, you must include that feedback and maybe tweak your story according to it. In case you have used any outside source for supposing you're writing a historical fiction, you would have done lots of um, research. You must give credit to those sources that you have. You would have seen it in Dr. Kushbu's presentation also. Wherever she has taken the picture from, she had, given the credit there and mentioned it. And that is what we need to do in this time and age, right? Okay, I think we have come to an end to this. Now I have an exercise for you. I want all of you to look at this paragraph. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah. Just read it. Uh, this is it's from a piece that I wrote long back. And I would love to see you edit it, following all that we have just discussed. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, Weber. Thanks, Neha. It is better, Katie, that you don't end it on a cliffhanger because it leaves the reader a little unsatisfied. Yes. Anybody ready to share?
Just a minute, ma'am.
Yes, Divya.
Can I?
Yes, please.
I've done it for the first thing that you showed, ma'am.
Yes, yes, that one only.
Okay. So it was finally safe to go out and play. The sun was setting and the heat had eased. Mother had given permission at last, and all the siblings tumbled out of the house, eager for the cool evening air. She rushed outdoors, the breeze riffling through her hair, a white smile lighting up her face. At the foot of the hill, on the big open ground, she spotted a few friends who had already arrived. But as she looked around, she noticed something odd. Many familiar faces were missing.
Very nice, Divya. Very nice. You have been
Thank
able
you.
to apply all the conditions we just discussed. Yes. Anyone else? Anyone else would like to share what they have, how they have edited it? Okay. 1 minute. So I want to show you how I had written this particular piece. Can anyone just let me know if you can see it and read it?
Yes, ma'am. It's visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. It
It
was
was
safe
safe
to
to
go
go.
out and
Oh,
play. Yes. Mother had said so. She quickly rushed outdoors. She smiled as she looked off with the breeze rifling her hair. As she reached the big ground at the foot of the hill, she could make out her friends had reached too. Okay. So this is how I had written it. And it was a very short piece. And um, someday maybe I'll share the whole piece with you because it's called The Moon. And there was a lot of sensory imagery about the moon in that. So one of you, I think Sanya had talked about use of descriptions. She would love to read that. Yeah. So thank you, Divya. Now there's another
Yes,
short
ma'am.
exercise for you in case you're ready. This is from a very famous author, George Saunders. And How would you edit this? It's a flash fiction written by him. And I just want you to read this and see if you want to tweak it in any way.
Ma'am, I have edited it in my way. Can I share it?
Of course. Your way only I want.
Yes. Every Thanksgiving night, we trailed behind Dad as he dragged out the Santa suit and draped it over the metal crucifix he had built in the yard. During Super Bowl week, the pole wore a jersey and Rod's helmet, and Rod had to ask permission if he wanted it back. On the 4th of July, the pole was Uncle Sam. On Veterans Day, a soldier. On Halloween, a ghost. The pole was Dad's only concession to glee. We were allowed a single Crayola from the box at a time. One Christmas Eve, he shrieked at Kimmy for wasting an apple slice. He hovered over us as we poured ketchup, chanting, "Good enough, good enough, good enough." Birthday parties were cupcakes, no ice cream. The first time I brought a date over, she asked, "What's with your dad and that pole?" I just sat there blinking.
Very nice, Divya. Very good. Yeah. Of
Thank
course,
you.
this is a prize-winning author and an award-winning author. So it is already edited very crisply, but you can see that there is still some scope you had to tweak it, right? If you look at that line, ketchup saying good enough, good enough, good enough, there is no punctuation over there. So it is deliberate. It is an indication that how he must have just gone on like chanting as a mantra, good enough, good enough, good enough. And it also shows that he was a very different kind of person, uh, who just this was the only kind of joyous moments that he felt and which he gave to his children, right? So if you do all the exercises for characterization, world building for your story, you will be able to identify how you want to present your story and how you want to edit it, right? Okay. With that, I come to an end of my presentation. Thank you so much. Uh, Thank you, all of you, for being here and participating in a wholehearted way. And these are some of the sites I had used before I put my thoughts together. And I really, really thank all of you for being here today. Kushbu and I are here to take any of your questions that you have, and we would love
Ma'am,
to.
I would,
Yes, Katie?
ma'am,
Somebody said raise a question. I missed out who it was.
How do you balance trimming word count while maintaining the story's atmosphere or world building?
Divya, I couldn't hear that clearly. How do you
Ma'am,
balance?
trimming the word count while maintaining the story's atmosphere.
Yes, that is a difficult task and a challenge. And that will happen only when you are writing to a particular word count, right? So, most of us, people who are dabbling in story writing that I know, we first write freely as we feel comfortable. Yeah, this is after we had a little bit of planning. You remember the last session, there was a map, mind map that Vidya ma'am had asked you to make, right?
Yes, ma'am.
That kind of planning really helps because then you can see your story through. Today, while talking on this topic of characterization, also Aparna ma'am mentioned the same thing, have a vision board. So when the story is clear in your mind, you know, you can write it better because you can visualize it. Then after that, you can trim it down because supposing you have overshot, then like you just did when we were tweaking the and editing our stories, We can see, okay, this part, maybe this description I've written so much, though we tend to love the lines we have created, we have to be a little hard-hearted and kind of trim out a couple of lines there. Okay. And if you have written less and you want to write more, then you can add in your descriptions, you can flesh out the character more, probably add some more action so that till the climax is reached, yeah, and create more conversations, dialogues. This is if you are writing less. If you are writing more, which is generally the case, then you have to be very, very heartless and trim down your beautiful work.
Yes, thank you.
Welcome. Yes, Weber.
And as you mentioned that find out the high points and low points of your story.
Yes.
So if we figure out some low points of our story, so how to elevate those low points? How to not make the story boring?
Yeah. So now, why did you firstly feel that that was something which was weak? Either it is not bringing out your ideas clearly, either, how is the idea not coming out clearly? Either the character is not able to express itself, either the interactions between two characters is not clearly seen, so there is a gap, right? And therefore the reader will get confused. Then you will be able to, when you identify that, then you can either fill it up with a backstory, why the character is behaving in a particular manner, or why the character is not talking to another character, or what is the dynamics between the two characters. You can also give some details about what has happened in the past, so you can add a flashback, right? And that is going to help you to fill in the gap. Another thing I would like to ask you, I forgot about it. The story of the hare and the tortoise. All of us know it.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So can you tell me how is the hare projected as a character, and how is the tortoise presented? To help you, I'll just egg you on. The hare is shown as someone who is very pompous, someone who is overconfident, isn't it? He's fast, he knows it, he's in for a race with the tortoise, and he's full of this, you know, uh, self-confidence is a positive word. See, the connotation of words also matter. So I will say he is very overconfident and he is boorish, and he's too he has these negative connotations of wanting to be very proud, and everyone knows that he is faster, and look at the tortoise, how he wants to challenge him to a race. And so he takes it very easy and he goes to sleep, right? When he sees that he's way ahead of the tortoise. And the whole point of that story was to prove that if we work diligently, regularly, then we shall always achieve our goal, which is a fact. But if I tweak the story a little, I'm talking about the plot structure now. I say that the hare knows that its strengths, right? But it decides on it in its mind that it's going to let the tortoise win. What then? Will the characterization be different then? We have to show the inner dialogue that the hare has decided that the tortoise is always coming last, so I think I'll let it win this time. The whole scenario, the whole character will change. And also the qualities ascribed to the character. Yeah. So the plot structure, if you first thought of the hare and the tortoise in a particular way, that you're going to write the story like this, but you can always come back. And so now that you all are going to create your own new worlds, you will first come and think of one story in a particular way, all right? A chain of events. I want to ask you to think about another alternate way, which Khushbu ma'am has already done by saying, take an idea from someone else. So when you get blending ideas, you're getting a third option. For example, once there was a prompt 1920, 19, sorry, 2021, not 19, 2021. So what would come to your mind? Most of us would think of a year, 2021. And if do you remember what happened in 2020? The world came to a
COVID.
standstill. Yes, you're right. COVID, right? The world came to a standstill. So 2021 was a very hope-filled number. Everybody was looking forward to 2021 as the year which was going to reverse everything and bring everything back to so-called normal. But when I was thinking of it, I thought of 2020. I used that mind map and I thought of 2020 as vision, which is perfect vision. Then I thought of 2020 as cricket, because 2020 cricket is very popular in India, right? But the prompt was 2021. So then I thought that 2021 has to be something different. And I wrote a story about how there were these uh, children who would meet on a street to play cricket, and how there was one particular child who was considered as too young, too small, and though he was very good at the game, nobody wanted him in his team. So the particular captain chooses him, but he says, okay, now I'm going to take this boy who was the last one to be chosen, but we are going to, you need to give us some benefit for having this boy who was not even, tall enough to be part of our teams. And so he decided that they should get 1 over extra. So I took the passion for cricket and I took this particular way children behave with one another, and I twisted the story around that. That's editing the plot structure. I am going to leave you thinking about that, because when you write a story, if it is predictable, then what's the fun? Make it unpredictable. Edit your plot structure. Okay? And all of you are going to be participating in the short story writing competition. Don't let your story be predictable. Tweak
Ma'am,
and edit your plot structure. Yes, Weber.
uh, sorry to interrupt you, ma'am.
Not at all.
As you are saying, as you are saying to make the story unpredictable. So, what's the technique to make it unpredictable?
Use that mind map. Use a mind map. Look at the different alternatives you have, right? When you start writing a story, probably if at the outset you feel that this I'll not be able to do. In my story, this is the protagonist, this is the antagonist, this is going to be the conflict. Conflicts also you have to decide. It's going to be internal, it's going to be between the two characters, it's going to be with the environment that they are in. Where is it going to be? And then when you just plan out your story, you'll look at the climax, what's going to be the conflict there, and then how it's going to be resolved with the following action, right? At that time, before you started writing your story, you already thought of it. But before you pen it down, look at 2 to 3 alternatives. Use that mind map Vidya ma'am talked about. Yeah? That's going to help you in fleshing it out. Right? For example, there are so many movies. Sometimes movies are remade, but the end may be tweaked. So it's not, predictable. And that is what the audience loves. This is just one suggestion. Of course, what you're writing in your new world will be totally different, totally unpredictable, because the whole world is new. And that is going to make it very, very interesting. But for your own learning, I think you should pick up the books written by all the 3 authors who came here today. This is written by myself, Jewels from the Treasure Trove. This you will find on Amazon. You have uh, The Labyrinth of Silence by Dr. Aparna, and you have The Mildly Chaotic World of Chikeni by Dr. Kushbu. Yeah. So these are going to be like great learning experiences for you because all the stories are very, very different from what you have ever read. What you have ever read. These have been written in a very creative manner. So I would come back to a question somebody asked about. I don't know whether the person is here, asked about descriptive writing earlier. How to differentiate between creative writing and different and descriptive writing. Descriptive is a more about descriptions and sensory imagery, right? Whereas when you're writing a narrative, when you're writing a story, it has to drive the plot and bring out the story. And the story will happen only when there's a change in your character, when there's a growth, you know. I like to say that a story is when there is someone doing something somewhere where they ought not to be. Yeah. So if we are going to just
Yes,
talk
ma'am.
about
Very
some,
well said.
thank you, Sangya. Because if you're going to say the same thing that we are doing every day, there's no story in it. It's routine, mundane. But a story is when there's something unusual. And that is what you must remember to make your characters do something different. And I also want to admit that as an author, as a writer, my first story I thought was good, but my last story was much better. Yes, definitely, Sangya. Correct.
It totally resonates with it, like how the hobbit broke out of its habit and went on an adventure that no one
Absolutely.
thought he would.
Absolutely right. Yeah. So when you're writing the story, remember you're no less than Tolkien himself. Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. That made me blush.
All the best to all of you. We are looking forward to great submissions from all of you who've been with us over the last two Sundays. It also shows your dedication to learning this craft, and definitely you all are going to benefit from it. So, should I end our meeting today?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
ma'am.
Do share your feedback with Jayanti ma'am. It's such a pleasure to be associated with her. She's such a great author and yet so humble. And she's doing this uh, to promote literature, especially among young people like you. I feel that it's such a fantastic thing that we are on to this particular short story writing competition. I look forward to reading all your stories. Thank
Yes, ma'am.
you. Thank you, Divya. Thank you, Neha. Thank you, Katie, Vaibhav, Sarah, Sangya, and Jessie. Have I left anybody out? Thanks to them also. Thank you. Okay.
Pan 5.